Oh, that's horrible.
We're doing it.
We're live. Okay, we are live, so we're going to get started yet. Real quick, though. Yeah, that's better. I'll let you run. Is that good for you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Sit there. Go ahead. All right, we are technically live, Jill, but I'll let you know when we're getting ready to start. Nobody's in here yet. It doesn't look like.
Okay.
I forgot to turn the lights on the sign on. I didn't do my job. All right, we are going to get started here for anybody in the live stream in just 1 second. Thank you for joining.
It's weird. I'm not used to wearing headphones on this thing.
I know, because you're not professional.
I like to be in the moment, man.
All right, you about ready to get started?
I suppose.
You bring it up, and bring it up and just check the audio on the live stream real quick. Do a quick test. We're good. All right.
Good God. Oh Lord.
All right. That pisses me off that everything's backwards. All right. Anyway. All right, Joe, we're going to get started in just 1 second. 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Ghost in the Night, a haunting or a paranormal and true crime podcast. Travis is always here with me on my left or the right if you're watching on YouTube, but it's actually our left because that's how we roll. We got everything all screwed up.
All I know is that 2 wrongs don't make a right, but what is it? 3 lefts make a right, and 3 rights make a left.
What the hell are you talking about?
You didn't know that? There's people that are afraid of making left turns and stuff, so they'll have to go up to the next street, take a right, take a right, take a right, and then it puts them on the street that they would turn left on.
It is way too hot in here for you to mess with my mind like that. Anyway, tonight we are covering the infamous The Boyd House in Boyd, Minnesota. And we will be joined by the owner, Jill Shelley, and she will come on here in just a second. But before we get started, I want to say hi to everybody in the chat. Thank you for showing up so early. Good job, people. Jessica, thank you for showing up. Jenny, I believe you're here. Gregory's here. Gregory, we will get to you. I know I was supposed to get with you. I will get with you tonight, some point after the podcast, and we will set up next week. But before we get started with the Boyd House and Jill Shelley's telling us the horrific and scary paranormal stories coming out of there.
Excellent. I love it. I can't wait.
I want to throw a shout out. We have a new Patreon subscriber.
We do.
Yes. They do not have a name. They have it's still standing. I don't know what that means because I haven't been standing for years, but still standing. Thank you so very much.
Still standing or still learning?
Oh, still learning. That's it.
Yeah, because I know who it is.
Oh, why are you going to bust my bubble? I thought we had fans.
No, I told you who it was.
I know. You're breaking kayfabe, damn it.
Sorry, Gene.
All right. But thank you, Still Learning. We greatly appreciate it. Wasn't there a movie called Still Standing? I know there's Stand By Me, but I don't know.
Probably. I don't know.
This is why I should drink more. I can't do these podcasts sober. Anyway, thank you, everybody, for showing up. But tonight we are going to talk about the Boyd House. Like I said, it's a haunted location that anybody can investigate. If you want to go there and investigate, plenty of teams have come rolling through there over the past couple of years. It's on YouTube, and we have some links for the team and the owner that owned this particular home. And there's some interesting activity that I saw in my research. But this is a super small town.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure Jill, when she comes on, will talk about that. And I think she's on now. Jill, how are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
Oh, we are just lovely, just being a complete cluster that we are. Thank you so much for joining us tonight in our amateur hour.
I apologize ahead of time if I slip up and cuss.
Oh, that's quite all right.
I've
Oh,
already
thank
I've
God.
already warned her about you.
I mean, I clean it up during interviews a little bit.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Now, Jill, you run a paranormal team, correct? Are you the founder or just a high-ranking member?
No, I'm the founder of a team called St. Croix Paranormal, and we started that back in 2010.
Now, what I always ask this question to people that I interview, especially that are on a team and like to do a lot of investigation and go out and actually do the work. What got you into the paranormal?
Just I've always been fascinated by like ghosts and scary things since I was really little. Everybody thought I was kind of weird.
Right.
But I always, like me and my cousins, we would sit up at my grandma's house and tell ghost stories and listen to the records of ghost stories and just that kind of thing. But there was a room that my grandma had that we didn't really like, and it had like a lot of, like my uncle's war stuff and things like that. But it's just really kind of a cold room all the time. You just felt like you shouldn't be in there, that kind of thing. And one particular night, I awoke. I was probably, I don't know, between 8 and 10 years old, not
Mhm.
really sure. And I awoke and I heard like the sound of footsteps coming out of the one room, and my back was to it. So I didn't want to like turn and look because I was really petrified, and I kind of felt like it was staring right through me. It was like the most intense stare. Like you could, like, if somebody's staring at you from across the room, you kind of like, oh, you feel like someone's staring at you. This almost felt like almost like laser eyes going through my,
Right.
through my back almost, but I was too scared to turn around and look. But then it kind of sighed and I turned around and you could hear the footsteps and I walked back, and then I was really terrified. So I just kind of threw the blankets over my head, went back to sleep. And then in the morning, I just happened to ask my parents, and they had not gotten up through the whole night. And I had asked my grandma about it too, and her room's downstairs, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, honey, that's just a ghost, and he's not going to hurt you." So then I was like, at that point, kind of like, "Oh my God, like I really need to learn more about these things. Like if they can't hurt you, And grandma, who is very religious, is like all kind of cool about it. I need to find out more information about this stuff." So that just kind of fueled my passion for the paranormal, and I just kind of started doing a lot more research and studying and watching movies and documentaries. And with the advent of the TV shows coming out, that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I can really go out and investigate. I didn't know people could do that. So,
Yeah, when it went
you know,
when it went mainstream.
right, right. Yeah. And so that's yeah, kind of how we started. I ended up buying, like we talked a little bit off air about the main thing. I had a voice recorder and a camcorder. That was
Mhm.
pretty much it. And I actually went to an apartment building uh, that was haunted. That some people had some issues with a child ghost there, and I got like the most incredible EVP of a little girl saying, "Neener, neener, neener, come and get me."
Really?
So
Maybe it was
that, yes,
Annabelle.
What'd you say?
yeah, I don't think so.
I said maybe it was Annabelle.
Annabelle. Don't get me started on Annabelle. We've covered that in the past episode.
I mean, it's an interesting story. I think it's kind of a crock
Well,
of shit.
we know my philosophy on those two, so we've covered.
Oh, on the Warrens.
Yes. Anyway,
Yeah, we're pretty vocal about it.
Yeah.
About the Warrens.
What now? That experience, that first experience, did you just spoke about? Now, did things continue? Did you have other experiences, or did that just it was kind of one and done?
No, we had some oddball stuff like around my house, and I don't know if that was, like a poltergeist activity or stuff, but I would have like the radio volume would go like really, really high, like loud, go really loud.
Yeah.
And then I would just say, "Hey, can you turn that down?" And then it would go down. Sometimes my lights would turn on in my bedroom in the middle of the night, and I'm just like, "Hey," and then it would get shut back off again.
Right, but nothing
So
really scary. I
yeah,
mean, at that young
no,
age, I'm sure you were petrified. But now, probably as you're older, and like me, I'm older, it doesn't really scare me anymore. And there's a time to be a little bit more concerned when you're investigating, but nothing really seemed, just for lack of a better term, evil or negative.
Ominous.
no, I never had that type of experience as younger. Obviously, through my years of investigating, I would say nothing evil, just something maybe a little bit more grumpier.
Yeah, see,
But But yeah, nothing as growing up. I did not have any negative experiences.
You'll like Jill. She has a philosophy about, she doesn't like necessarily, she's very, from my researching what she's all about and talking to her, she's not a big fan of the demons either. She thinks it's a rarity as well, just like you, Travis.
Well, I mean,
she believes in the grumpy spirits.
Yeah, they're just pissed off.
Yeah, Travis.
Not everything's just because it's mad doesn't mean I wake up super pissed off because all I want is a breakfast burrito and an energy drink, but that doesn't make me a demon. Right. Honestly, I'm probably if I'm hangry, I'm probably actually a little bit worse than a demon.
Well, odds are I'll die before you, and when you die and you get hangry, I'll give you a Snickers bar.
I mean, what's the average lifespan now? Like 86.
So
you got like 5 years
for crazy people like us. No, I'm pushing it now.
I can't believe I made it into 30.
All right. Anyway, well, I should just see, this is what happens when you get on here, Travis. I lose my concentration. I can't even speak.
Yeah, you suck tonight.
I know. Thank you, buddy. You're a help. I hate you so much. Anyway, now get us to forming the team. Now, how'd you form the team? Or did you just have some friends and you group together, or did you actually go out looking for people with like interest?
Actually, one of the guys that I work with, he was very into paranormal, and we kind of always used to just chat about scary movies. We had that in common, and then little did we know we both were into ghosts. So then that kind of spawned like, hey, well, let's start a team. So we kind of did that, and then I just started talking, just to people outside of work, and they're like, hey, I know somebody that would really be a good fit for your team. And so that was through a mutual person at work as well. And that's Donna, who's still with us today. We actually, the first time we met, we spoke on the phone. And then I said, well, hey, there's a graveyard right down the street from my work. You want to meet there? So we ended up meeting there. And then we're just best friends now. And then like Teresa, who's still with us, she's been with us too for a really long time. We met Steve, the other guy at work. He knew her from before. And then Alex just happened to hit us up a couple years later, just wondering if we were looking for any members to join. And so we interviewed him and hung out with him, and we liked him. So he's been with us. So we can pretty much have a group core of like 4. Pretty much it's us 4. We're kind of like a family more than anything.
That is the perfect size for a team. You get more than 4, it gets, like we spoke earlier about, it gets crazy. It's hard to investigate with more than 4 people.
Shit, I barely like just you and me is pushing it for me.
Yeah, but I get tired of you real quick, so I have to bring 2 more people to talk to.
Well, yeah, but you know how I am. I want to go off into the deep dark places by myself with no lights and shit. And do that.
I know. That's why I love you. Now you and your team have pretty much investigated some big time places. Kind of give us a highlight of your resume when it comes to places that you and your team have went.
Oh, sometimes I can't even remember every place we've went, but just some of the things like at Villisca Ex Murder House, we've done the Waverly Hills, we've done Edinburgh Manor, Ashmore Estates. There's just so many. I should have had the list in front of me.
Actually,
Thornhaven Manor, yeah.
I believe that Edinburgh Manor, is one of the ones that I watched on the YouTube channel.
Probably. Now, when you said Villisca, Travis got all excited because he loves that place. We've never been there, but we did an episode on it. Did you get what was the activity like there for you?
Yeah, so we've been twice. So the very first time was probably the most incredible time we had. That was actually also our very first investigation at a known haunted location. We had just done like private homes and some businesses prior to that, but nothing to the magnitude of Villisca.
Right.
So I was pretty freaked out about it, but we did have some of our equipment. We had the REM pod go off. But what was more incredible is we got so many Class A EVPs, which of course, we did not know until the time. But we had them actually getting 2 EVPs of the spirits talking to each other. So the one little kid said, "Do you want to play?" And the other one said, "No way." When we had put out a lot of our toys and stuff, we got a little boy giggling, and he said, "I want to touch your things." And then Lena was one of the girls that was murdered at the house. And I heard from other documentaries she likes to play tricks and mess with the people who come in there because she thinks it's fun. So then we had like an older boy say, "No, Lena, no." So I don't know if she was up gonna do something, but he's like telling her not to do it. And then like I think when we came in the door, we said, "Is anybody here?" And a girl answered back, "We're right here." So just that, and then they were throwing pebbles from upstairs. We were getting like little rocks that were tinging down from the old fashioned. They have like those metal grates in between the floor, and you would get little rocks that would just come down and go ting 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 across the room. So yeah, and it was just amazing. Just getting those EVPs was just crazy, absolutely incredible.
Now, what of all the infamous places that you've been that you listed off, and I know you've been to Bobby Mackey's as well.
Yes.
What is let me ask this: is there one particular place that has put the fear of God into you? That, I mean, just scared the Jesus out of you?
I guess if we always kind of go back to Whispers Estate in Mitchell, Indiana. That house is very messed up. We walked in there, it was nothing but that constant cobwebs and electric feeling all over your entire face the whole time we were there.
Mm-hmm.
Enough to drive one of our members out for the night that they couldn't handle it anymore.
Really?
We saw wet footprints coming up from the basement. And there should not be any of that. And it walked out to the door, out to the basement, like to the backyard,
That's cool.
That's cool. That is.
Yeah. And then, of course, we were having some equipment interaction and stuff. But like I think the biggest thing with that is we were up in this closet. And this particular closet's known to be negative. Even the owner said that if they come upstairs and that closet's open, they said it's game over. They will not step foot upstairs at that point. Story behind the house. Well, first of all, there's a doctor who lived there, and he did really unethical things to his patients, especially his female patients. They buried body parts in the backyard. His daughter had an accident with a candle, caught fire, so she was burned. So apparently he gave her mercy killing with morphine 3 days later. There was a child that died there that fell down the stairs. And then the deal with the closet, his name is Virgil, and he was a groundskeeper. And the day he retired, he dropped dead in front of his closet there on his last day as he put his tools away.
Oh, well,
So
that'll definitely make a grumpy freaking entity. That would be
so
what we classify as a demon.
Right, yeah. So he's pretty ticked off. So apparently, like he'll push and scratch people. People get locked in there when it like the door. It's one of those locks that you kind of pull up, have slide over, and then drop back down. So they're like, I don't even know how people get locked in there. So of course, we decided, hey, let's go in the closet because that sounds like a really good idea. But
never a good idea.
No. Yeah, but you have to remember these closets too. It's like a big walk-in. Like they actually have a little table, a table, a couple chairs. So there's plenty of room. So Teresa and I are in the closet, and something pops in my head that just says, "Get out of this closet." So I was like, okay, I'm gonna just step out. I don't like to be in closets anyway because I always think the door's gonna shut on me. I'm gonna get stuck. And so we were also running the spirit box at the time, and it said, "Shut this door." And we didn't do that either. And so Teresa's sitting in a chair, and next thing you know, she comes flying out of the room. She's like 4 feet across the room, her in that chair. And she said somebody physically picked it up and threw her out of that room.
Really?
So that was probably like one of the most scarier things that we've actually experienced, because we, of course, I'm like debunking. I'm like, well, did you fall over? And she's like, I would have just been right here, would have fell in the closet. I wouldn't be in the hallway. with the chair. So, so she was really shaken up. And she's like, I just can't explain to you. I could feel the chair being picked up. Somebody picked it up. So yeah, just a lot of weird. And then like the people who were there, like they weren't the owners, but they're like caretakers. So they stay there a lot. And I don't know if they, get so much vibe from the house, but then she heard the commotion and she came up and she's like, are you guys okay? And we're like, yeah, explain what happened. She goes, yeah, I was in a dead sleep, but the house woke me up and told me they were upset with you because you were making too much noise. So it was just kind of weird that she said that. So yeah, it was just weird. We didn't like that house. It was just so messed up. Yeah, it was just weird. I don't know. It was just the craziest house. We were seeing shadows just around on the walls, and it was just insane. And then we swore we'd never go back ever again. And we went back probably like 5 years later, did not get that same activity. We had, some equipment interaction, but it was nothing like it was that night.
Well, but that first night's enough. But let me ask you, we'll get some information on it.
I'm going in that closet.
Well, you've been in the closet for years. Let me ask you this question. Now, having this kind of experience, you went and bought your own haunted house. What were you thinking?
I don't know, momentary lapse of insanity. I don't know. But I don't know. It's just going around to all these other places, kind of made me think, well, gosh, this would really be fun to have my own place to, go do research when I want to, and then allow other people to do research. And then we can kind of collaborate with everybody. So if people are still getting kind of the same things, we can, beyond a shadow of a doubt, go, okay, and kind of prove that way too. So that's kind of what the drive was as far as getting my own haunted location. Then I ended up finding the Boyd House.
Now, the Boyd House, just for the listeners out there, is in Boyd, Minnesota. Now, this is a small-ass town. I'm talking small.
Mm-hmm.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, since you obviously live in the general vicinity of this town, it only has like 175 people that live in the...
Yeah, roughly.
175 people.
And that's mostly out on the farm area. So the town itself with the houses is really, really small. There's no businesses left in town at all. There's like a bar, because every town's got to have a bar. And there's a cafe, your post office, and just maybe one or two other small businesses. That's it. We don't have groceries, gas, nothing. There's really nothing there at all.
This sounds like my kind of town.
I have more people living on the street than that town.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, right. So tell us how you found this house. I know the story, but tell the listeners how you found this house.
Well, nobody advertises their house being haunted for sale usually. And so I just kind of go off with my intuition pretty much. I would just kind of Google the MLS and look at houses. And if I got kind of a feel for it, I would go take a look at it, do many investigation. My realtor knew what I was purchasing the home for. But when I came across the Boyd House, and I had been to a couple others, nothing that really made me want to buy it. I was just immediately attracted to it right away. I just even almost became obsessed in a way, even before looking at it, just, constantly looking at the pictures, going like, oh, I really want this house. I hope there's some spirit activity there, So we went down, we took a look at it, and went down there with Donna, my teammate, and just hanging out, waiting for the realtor to show up. And we were just eating sandwiches outside, and all of a sudden I just kind of said, hey, I kind of feel like someone's staring at you through that attic window. And she's like, yep, I didn't want to say anything, but kind of do. So you kind of got that vibe that somebody was already kind of checking you out when we got there. And then we just kind of we did a small investigation. So we had a REM pod up, and that went off within 8 minutes of being there. And then we ran the spirit box, and we got a couple good responses. One of them's like, who are you? So it's like, because that was kind of weird that nobody else has ever really talked to them. So, they kind of wondering what the heck's going on. So then I'm kind of like, well, that's just a few things. Let me just check with, there's a medium that I really trust. And she said, oh yeah, there's like 6 spirits there. She's like a couple kids, women, a man, which as we've gone through more investigating, we've come to prove that yes, that is what's there, and sometimes some passerbyers. But I was like, okay, well, should I go with that? And I'm like, well, you know what? Let's just ask the family, because the last family lived there about 30 years. It was an older couple, and back then, nobody really wanted, if you talked about ghosts and stuff, you're nuts. So they were real hesitant, but the woman said that, oh gosh, yeah, I always thought that there was certainly something funny about that house. And she said that she would sometimes hear old time music playing, just kind of hear footsteps every once in a while. Her daughter apparently had a lot of more interaction. Like she has actually seen a man in the house several times, and got to, after meeting her, after I purchased the house, I showed her a picture of the old owner's Fred Eckhart, and she's like, "Oh my God, that's him." So she had quite a bit more interaction, and then people in the town have come forward like, "Oh, I spent the night one time when I was growing up there, and something touched my shoulder," or so a lot of people are coming forward with some stories, so that it's good validity there.
Let me ask you a question that popped in my head when you were telling the story. How crazy did the realtor think you were when you went in to do a walk through the house with paranormal equipment and looking for basically ghost hunting?
Oh, it scares her, so she never came along. So it was always the other realtor, whoever was selling the house, would meet us there. Um, but yeah, she was really cool with it though. She was like, I don't know how you do that. So,
Now, before we get into the
but
history of the house, let me ask you one question. You said in the beginning of the story that you were drawn to the house.
yes.
Do you think the house was calling to you, or was it just your interest in it, or do you think there was something pulling you toward it?
Oh, I think there was something pulling. I think I tend to be, I feel like a little bit intuitive. Like I don't consider myself psychic or anything like that, but sometimes I can get a really good feel.
Hmm.
I kind of trust my inner gut on certain things, especially with the paranormal. Like I can feel when they're around me, but I can't like,
Excuse me.
I can't communicate or anything like that. I just get that feel like that. I just know.
Hmm.
Um, and that's kind of the feel that I got when I was looking at pictures of the Boyd house.
Okay, now before I want to get into the history because you mentioned the Eckhart family. That's kind of interesting. But when did you first, after you purchased a house, and obviously you went in and started doing what new homeowners do, because you weren't planning on living at the house, correct?
Correct.
But you still had to clean up and I guess decorate it. How soon did paranormal activity start presenting to you?
Well, actually, the very first night that we stayed there, um, I was walking past the basement door, and all of a sudden there was like this really loud bang on the other side of the door. But it was like two, it was like bam, 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 like somebody's pounding on the door. And of course, I jumped like 10 feet because I was not expecting that. And I'm like, oh my God, what was that? And then, of course, then now here's me trying to debunk it. I'm like, well, was this an air draft thing? Was this a, whatever? And there was nothing that I could come up with scientifically of what made that 3 bangs on that door. So that's what we got the first night that I stayed there.
Okay. Now let's get into a little bit of the background of this house, because, like you said, it wasn't truly. It might have been popular, or people in that small town might have had some inkling that there was some stuff going on, but it wasn't like overwhelmingly haunted per se. Uh, Tell us a little bit about the. You mentioned the Eckhart family. Tell us a little bit about them.
Well, they were one of the first. So the house itself was built in 1901, but we've had a couple families move in and out, but not, no really good major history on them. Like nobody died there or anything that we could find. So the most common that we have goes back to 1912 then, with the Fred and Minnie Eckhardt. So they're family moved in there in 1912. They owned a store in town, which was basically kitty corner across the street. And they kind of sold fancy goods, dry goods, groceries, kind of the higher end type stuff. And then he also helped build the Lutheran church. His dad and also his other son helped build the Lutheran church. Fred was also on the fire department and the school board, so very, very well respected businessman in town. And then so both him and his wife both passed away in the home.
Okay.
And they had Minnie's funeral in the home, right? We have the typical, like they did back in the day, the 3 windows,
Right.
that can protrude outwards, and that's exactly where her casket was for 3 days. For
Which
that.
that's not that uncommon because I'm assuming this is what in the 50s, 40s, 50s.
Yeah, she died in like 1958, I
Right.
believe.
That's not that uncommon for that time. I mean, today we think that's crazy, and obviously, we would think, oh my God, you're just asking for trouble to have a funeral in a
Right.
home. Has there been any other deaths?
Yeah, 2 of Minnie's children passed away in the home. One died in infancy that we know, and the other one, I believe he was between 3 and 5, and he actually choked to death in the house.
Really?
So she lost him in the house as well.
Now, since you own the house and you're probably the most familiar with this house, do you think some of these deaths could be the cause for the activity?
Oh, I definitely feel that Fred and Minnie are there. Some of the children activity, though, that we do get seems to be more older. So if we're looking back at history, saying that the 3 to 5-year-old passed away, I feel like the child activity we're getting is more along the lines of between 8 and 10.
Okay.
So I also feel like we have a lot of passerbyers, or things that just like to stay. I think because we have a lot of energy. We have the railroad track that runs right behind the house. We also had the town was back in the day built right up against the end of the Sioux Dakota reservation line.
Ooh,
So there could have been a lot of stuff that happened is there because not everything's on record that we can find. I mean, our deed itself goes back to 1889, but we, trying to find any records on hardly anything back then is really hard to find anything.
with that close proximity to an Indian reservation or a Native American reservation, excuse me, that is very interesting because the Native Americans have seemed to always be somewhere close to paranormal activity.
Well, I say all the time, like, because a lot of people that don't really dive into this whole thing have questions about stuff like that. Why is it always water? Why is it always native? I'm like, dude, one, we kind of stole their whole house.
Well,
and they like, just like a lot of old, defunct or forgotten societies, like these ancient or native people, like always have some type of a more legitimate spiritual connection to everything.
right now,
Like we've just gotten to the point where we've gotten so far away from knowing how much we need the land that we walk on and shit like that. Pardon my French, but like I think that's part of it. They understood that, therefore, so many things were deified, and if there's that power out there in the universe, it's going to get put into that.
right. Have you noticed or made any connections through your investigation with maybe some native activity?
I personally have not. We've tried playing maybe some like native music and just even some language, because you can play that off the internet and stuff. And we have not gotten anything in particular. So I don't think there's necessarily anything there in the house related with that, but I just think there's a lot of energy surrounding the area and around town because of that. And also we've seen pictures of the town back in the 1900s. They had a population of 500 people at one point, and the pictures are this. You get to see the horses and the wagons and the cowboys and the the town had like bars and restaurants and a billiard place and different, meat markets and hotels, and it was way bigger town back then. That with the Boyd House, the livery stable was actually across the street, and there's a house there today. And then I just recently learned too that the Boyd House was the first house in town to actually have indoor plumbing.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder if it would stir up if there is any native involvement in this haunting, if you will. If you put out like a life-size cardboard cutout of Kevin Costner from Dances with Wolves,
I don't think so.
have him just walk around like Tatanka.
I don't think so.
He pissed off everybody in that movie,
That is true, but I don't think.
except the one old guy and the random white lady.
Oh goodness! Now you did mention there's. I'm steering hard to the right. You did mention that there's a railroad that runs now right up against the property, behind the property.
Yeah, and that was back in the day, their mainstream. That was how the town survived. Everybody would stop in at Boyd, and then they'd stop in at the town. They got all their shipments in from that as well. So there was a lot of lively. There was actually one guy, they could never prove it. They feel like somebody murdered him. And somebody threw him out. Well, they found him on the train tracks. He got hit by a train in the middle of the night. But someone said it was suicide. But people who know him said that just doesn't seem right. But I also heard too back in the day for the butcher shops, they wouldn't let them slaughter the animals in town, so they would take them out to the railroad tracks and slaughter all the animals there.
I wonder what the point of that is.
I don't know.
That's interesting. But I don't want to say I have a theory, but I have noticed there's a lot of places or locations with activity that run very close to railroads. Do you have any thoughts, or have you noticed kind of a connection between the railroad line and maybe the activity that's going on at the Boyd House?
Well, I definitely notice, even just traveling around into other places I've been, it kind of seems like the ones that have quite a bit of activity tend to be around train tracks. And I don't know if it's just the metal and the conductivity of all the energy and the locomotion of the train. It's got to create some sort of energy, as they say, like with limestone and everything too. So it doesn't surprise me at all.
Right, because I like you think there's a lot to the energy aspect of all this when it comes to the paranormal, and things that conduct energy can enhance paranormal activity, like running water. I've been to a bunch of locations where they have underground springs running close to or underneath places that have activity.
Well, that harkens back to a Native American cultural thing too, because there's something about like spirits can only travel with the assistance of water.
It's
like if they're going to go to an entirely different place, like it's something based within the movement of the water, and they go where the movement of the water goes. I'm not saying I buy into it.
Well, I firmly believe, I can't speak for Jill here, but I believe we are energy. And if you want to believe in a consciousness or a soul, what have you, whatever verbiage you want to use, I think it is energy. I think we are energy. And that is one reason why I believe in an afterlife. Not just the fact that I've experienced activity my entire life, but things that conduct energy very well, I think, can aid in that. When we do pass, you maybe can move freer. And
well, I mean, there's also the thought of like, since we're dealing with something in these situations, we're dealing with stuff that's outside of our realm, or whatever, however you want to look at it. So it kind of makes sense that there's either use for or the manipulation of things that are elementally essential to the planet. Like they're in a state that we can't see them or perceive them, but they're still in our world. So when it comes to like how like it seems like those old houses that just have all woodwork on the inside, and it just everybody talks about how it just soaks up all that energy over the years. I mean, honestly, I feel like it's just kind of like that with every element.
Right. I mean, Jill, what do you think when it comes to do you think these are residual hauntings, or do you think they're let's get into the activity, I guess, is what we need to go to. Is there a lot of intelligent activity there, or more residual that you have found in your experience?
Oh, I would definitely say intelligent, because some of the EVPs are in direct correlation as to things that I'm doing at the particular time.
Mm-hmm.
So they're actually like watching, interacting, or answering direct questions. And then of course you probably get some residual, because sometimes I'll hear footsteps and things like that. So and audible voices, is that residual? Can't say I hear it every single time, every single day that we're there.
Right.
So yeah, but for as far as the Boyd house, I believe that most of it is intelligent.
Okay. Now, kind of give us a highlight of the activity from your perspective. We're going to get into some of the evidence from your team or the teams that have visited there here in a minute. But from what you personally have experienced in the house, give us a highlight of the greatest hits, essentially, of what you've experienced in the house.
Well, for the most part, I just kind of get that feel that they're around there. I get, like, for myself, I get a lot of equipment interaction, or again, that overall feel. Or like some of my, EVPs that we get, relating to things. Like I guess like one of my favorite EVPs is, we get one from a lady, and she always sounds like crabby, and like she smoked 100 cigarettes a day.
So like me.
Yeah, just like you, Travis.
Yeah, she kind of talks like this all the time.
Oh God, I'm afraid to hear what I'm going to sound like when I get to be that age, because I'm only 32 and I sound like this right now.
But yeah, I was just in the house by myself. I was doing some cleaning. I always just talk to him, as I was just rambling on about like my week, and I think I was saying, "Oh, I'm going to a wedding this weekend. You ever been to a wedding?" And I just kind of, I just keep on talking. So as I'm talking, so I missed kind of what some of the things she said was, because I'm not shutting up. And then I paused, and you heard, "I'm trying to sleep." So this poor woman, I'm in her room cleaning, and I'm just talking away, and she wants to sleep. So yeah, so that was kind of a fun EVP to catch.
So the spirit was telling you to be quiet because she wanted you to sleep. Did I hear that correctly?
No, because she's trying to sleep. She was trying to take a nap. Yeah.
That scared the shit out of me. Sorry, I just dropped my phone. I don't know why.
Are you scared? Is the Boyd house scaring you, Travis? Oh, relax.
You've been to these places. You've been on an investigation with me.
Now,
no, stuff like that doesn't scare me. Stuff like my phone falling, or like,
the mere fact that it may break.
Yeah, pretty much, because I can't afford to get a new one.
So what about objects moving or doors slamming? Any of that from your experience?
Yeah, I haven't actually seen it with my own eyes, but I remember we were just getting ready to leave, and I closed the attic door, gave it a tug, went to another room, came back out, attic door was open. Okay. And I yelled to my husband, I'm like, "Did you just come by and open the attic?" He's like, "Nope." And so there, I've had that, because we've had people say they've seen the attic door open. I hadn't seen it, and then all of a sudden I finally got to see that. Well, not see it happen, but turn around, and there it was there. I also had, which again I didn't see with my own eyes, but still pretty cool experience. I had put a bunch of old coins down in the basement, and I thought, I don't know why, but I always kind of felt like people played cards down here. So I was kind of shuffling the cards around, and I know absolutely nothing about how to play poker, but I'm just shouting out all kinds of things like aces are wild and deuces this, and and I
Right.
did this all night, like I kept shuffling all the cards around and just trying to play and said, hey, the grand prize is this gold coin. And um, I had one card that I pushed to the end of the table. Now, it wasn't hanging off the end of the table. It was just right to the edge. So that way I could see if it moved forward, that type of thing. But the whole time I was just like, hey, if you've really enjoyed tonight's games, please just knock the card off the table, that I know that you had fun tonight. So last time I came down there, shuffled the cards, said the same spiel. It was a little bit before midnight. About 10 minutes later, after I had walked away, and it was on film, that card got thrown off that table.
Really?
So I was pretty excited about that.
It was on film. You have
I caught that on film. So that was pretty cool.
Huh.
I wasn't sure if I had caught it on film. I just know that the card was on the table when I came down in the morning. I picked it up. I was jumping up and down, going, "Oh my God, thank you so much for touching the card."
But you said this was a basement, or
this was in the base. Yep, in the basement.
So I'm assuming no windows, or the ventilation's not that good, so it could be this, a draft or anything.
Nope, absolutely nothing. Not only that card sat there for 9 hours. It never fell off the table prior to that. And that's with people coming in, moving around, that kind of thing. Nothing. And I take it for that because I also asked them to do that if they enjoyed the night. But yeah, there's no wind, there's no nothing that would have created that to actually come off the table.
Now, the camera you were using, did it record audio as well? So did you catch any kind of maybe verbal or strange noise at the time this happened on the video?
Nope. It was just basically completely silent. Just right off the table. I mean, of course, you hear it sound, when it falls on the floor,
Right.
you hear cheek, but yeah, you don't hear like any footsteps go or any, breathing or any interaction like that. But we do get a lot of people. They like to play cards downstairs, and we also heard that Minnie really loved to play cards because her grandson still lives in town. I think he's almost 80.
Really?
And so he came over and told us a whole bunch of stories all about the Eckhardts. So things that I'm never going to find in a book.
Right.
So I never knew that Minnie, she loved to play the game whist. I tried to Google it. I don't understand it. I did a poor rendition of it, but so yeah, she liked to play cards. I know that she fell down the stairs and broke her arm at one point. So I just different things, different plants that she likes. So we have those fake plants around the house. So we try to do things that we find out about the family, that they like or enjoy, and just try to, make them happy while they're there.
Okay, I have one question before we get into some of the evidence that other teams have either shared with you or experienced at this location. You said you're married, so when you told is your husband a part of the team?
No.
Okay, even better. When you told your husband you wanted to buy a haunted house, how close were you to a divorce? Let me be honest.
Well, he's really good. He supports my goofiness a lot. Sometimes he has to pitch in help. But he was never really, I would say, a believer, not believer. When I met him, he was just kind of on the fence, like, I don't know, maybe they are, maybe they're not. But just a lot of the things that I've shown him, he definitely believes. But he was more worried about the financial aspect versus, can I make a go of this? Plus, he didn't understand the amount of people who are so into this.
Right.
He's gone to a couple conferences with me now just to, help promote the house. And he's like, wow, I can't believe all the people that are into this. So yeah, he's been pretty happy with the way things are going. I will say I am jealous of him because, okay, so for anyone to see an apparition in their lifetime is pretty rare. And it's like the goal, the holy grail of all, investigating. And he was coming in the front door carrying some boxes in, looks up at the stairwell, and he sees this woman at the stairs, long brown hair. He said it was real quick, super fast. He goes, for a second, I thought it was you, realized it wasn't you, and then she was gone. So, he got to see a full-blown apparition, and I still haven't seen one.
So has that changed his mind about maybe making him more of a believer, or?
Oh, when I showed him all the stuff I've captured just through all my years of things and places I've been, it did make him a believer.
Okay.
I would say more for the house, yeah. Because I still, even like probably the first 4 months when I owned it, I'm like, I don't know, maybe it's not haunted. It's like, my husband's like, well, you got this, and I saw this, and I'm like, I guess you're right. So, you know.
Okay, now let's get into some of the activity that other paranormal teams who go there and investigate, and we'll kind of. This is open to anybody that wants to come investigate, correct?
Yeah, anybody. You don't even have to be a paranormal investigator to come if you want to just come and experience. We actually I've put a little basket together too for those people who come that don't have equipment. So it's just got like your basic little things like a K2. We got them a voice recorder, or just little motion sensor. Just something because if you don't have nothing to play with, it could get really boring.
So kind of obviously some of these teams and people share some of their evidence or activity or experiences with you. What's the craziest thing anybody has experienced there?
Spontaneous human combustion.
No, not quite like that. But
I still have yet to find somebody in normal life that has anything to say about that.
I'd hate to see how much that rider costs on an insurance policy.
I don't know if that's covered.
Maybe we should put that in our waiver. But I don't know. I guess there's some people that they get like a lot of touching. So we hear a lot about that, audible voices and stuff. But we have seen one team had actually caught a shadow of two kids running through the kitchen, and that looked pretty cool. And I know we kind of touched base a little bit offline about that.
Right. Go ahead. Kind of set that
particular video. Yeah. So
I saw that piece of evidence, and it's a fascinating piece of visual. I'll say that. Go ahead and set it up and explain it.
Yeah. So what they had kind of an angled camera facing from the living room facing into the kitchen, which we hear a lot of people say they see shadow figures in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
That particular team, nobody was downstairs. They were all up in the attic when that happened. And then they, on review, saw the two shadow figures go by. They looked like 1 and 2, like a younger kid and then like an older kid.
Right.
Almost, somebody maybe was 8, maybe somebody was 12, and it was like super fast, like 1, 2. So I've had a lot of people say, well, maybe it was car lights or things, but I tend to want to make sure that the evidence that I personally bring out has no other explanation that I can think of.
Right.
But because I know, with them telling me, they were all up in the attic, but I know the lay of the house. So the way the road goes, there's absolutely no way any car, you would have to be driving the car into my house in order to put even headlights in there. Plus there's no windows facing that way. So it's just, so there's no way it's a car, just because I know the setup of the room. So that was, to me, a pretty validating piece of evidence that they got.
Now, has anybody kind of expressed maybe something darker there? I know, because you get a wide variety of opinions when it comes, especially when you have multiple teams coming through there. Has anybody ever said there's something dark or evil here?
I've had a couple people say that. I personally do not get that feel at all. I have never had any, negative or dark energies. Now we do have a lot of, things we've brought in that are supposedly haunted.
So like objects and stuff.
Right. But I can't prove if any of those have. I mean, we do. I think our oddest piece of thing that we have, which it's odd, but it's kind of a cool thing. It's this really freaky picture of this monkey in this blue. It's all blue pretty much, and it's in this. I don't know. I can't even explain. It's just the weirdest, oddest picture. But we obtained it from a lady who got it. Her and her husband found it on the side of the road, next to a tree, which is just like in the painting, with 3 red chairs, which is in the painting as well. But they didn't take the chairs, and her husband always was like, "Oh, I wish I would have took the chairs." But he hung this. She never liked it. She never liked the painting. She felt like there was something bad about it. There's actually a story written around the frame, so you have to actually read it and turn the picture around and upside down to read the story. She would never do that, afraid of, conjuring something. But her husband became super obsessed with this painting. He hung it in the garage, and he like became obsessed with it. He then killed himself in front of this painting, and she cannot figure out why. She's like, we were happy, we have kids. I don't, I mean, obviously, people who have committed suicide before, don't show any outwardly signs, but she said it just didn't make sense to her.
Right.
But so she just wanted that painting gone. So of course we took it.
Of course.
Yes. And so that's hanging. The only thing I can interestingly say, now I haven't had it actually verified by a real electrician, is ever since I hung up that painting, there's no longer any power in that room. So.
And the electrician can't find out why.
No, I just haven't had brought one in.
Okay.
Just thought it was weird that out of the entire house, it's only that room. Right after I hung the painting, there was no power in that room.
Huh, that would be interesting. I would look. I mean,
The first thing I would do is I would lick my finger and touch the nail just to see.
yeah, just to see if it hit a line or something. That's kind of.
And then, I mean, best case scenario, you didn't hit an electrical line. Worst case scenario, you're just now an attraction at the house.
Yes.
Yeah, you never know. It's kind of interesting though. We have a lot of. I think the first day we hung it up though, we were doing that Estes method,
Okay,
and Teresa's really good with that because she's very, I don't know, she's kind of like a beacon. Things just seem to come through her, so she's like excellent at doing that. But I said, hey, what do you guys think of that new picture we hung up? And it said monkey, evil, get rid of it. Like boom, boom, boom. Like it did not like it. And even to this day, when we're running the spirit box, it says a lot of things about this monkey. It does not like that monkey picture at all.
Racist.
Right. Now, I'm assuming she was, listening to the ghost box through headphones, correct?
Correct.
And
yes.
this is what she heard that's fascinating because anybody not familiar with the Estes method, which is like the Gansfield experiment kind of. I mean, that's fascinating that you asked that question. She heard that through the ghost box, and with that's interesting. I mean, like we spoke offline about the a ghost box. I'm not a big supporter of them, but I don't completely negate anything coming out of them. Like we spoke earlier, if you get a full sentence on a ghost box, that's compelling now.
Well, and it's one of those things like it's all. There's no concrete 100% foolproof. This is hardcore, inarguable, gathered evidence on anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like your picture's never going to turn out exactly the way you saw it if you catch something on video or film. Good God, video or photo. Like it just doesn't work like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there's no one item is perfect and flawless. I'm not discrediting them. They're fun, and you can catch some cool shit with them.
But what's interesting about the Estes experiment, that she did not hear the question, and it was relevant. That adds one layer of, I don't want to say truth, or gives it a little bit more credibility. It's a multiple word, basically a sentence. Whenever you get a sentence, that makes it fascinating. But that's what makes the Estes, doing it that way, makes it so interesting, because bias is you're not hearing something because you heard the question. Because
right,
what was it? Pareidolia, I think or is that the visual? I can't remember.
Yeah, that's the visual.
Yeah, but your brain, if you are looking for something, your brain will find it. So when you do it with this particular method, it kind of takes that out. That in my opinion, gives it a little bit more credibility.
I mean, that's why I am the way I am when we went out last year.
Yeah,
like I'm cool with people, but for the legitimacy of what I'm doing, like I'm almost always going to separate myself from you're fine, because if I go off on start rolling in a direction because I'm like, you'll just kind of cruise along and let me do my thing. But other people are like, what'd you see? Did something happen? And I'm like, shut up for 10 seconds.
Right.
I'm trying to find that out.
Right. So anything else when it comes to activity? I know you've got, what's the best EVP that you've gotten out of there? Just pick one.
But,
Or
there's just so
or
many.
do a list.
But
I don't care.
yeah, there's some I know like one time we were like walking down the stairwell and we got an EVP that says "Watch your step" from a guy. So it's like, again, that's how I feel like they're intelligent because that's
Right.
exactly what's going on.
Safety first. I like it.
Exactly. One of my favorite ones is well, she wasn't happy, but again, it was the raspy voice lady. But we were actually, we always just joke around. We're not 100% serious when we're investigating, but we were having dinner and we were just talking about farting, and just making jokes about that. And then we got like an EVP that said, "You're not very proper, are you?" So it's like she didn't enjoy that dinner conversation that particular night.
Nothing worse than a preppy, stuck-up ghost.
Yeah. So yeah, that's so it was just just those kind of things. I've gotten one where I'm just putting things away in the morning and I heard a guy say, well, I didn't hear him, but I got it later. It said, "How are you this morning?" But I actually have audibly heard voices in the house. There's one particular time, I don't know, about a month or so ago, Teresa and I were there. She was in the kitchen. I was, kind of on the stairwell and I was just doing some dusting. I actually had picked up Minnie's plant, her poinsettia plant that we gave her. And I heard a woman's voice, but it sounded like almost electronic-y. So I thought, oh, Teresa must be turning on something, some piece of ghost equipment or something, I thought. And all of a sudden she goes, "What'd you say?" And so as soon as she said that, I knew that did not come from Teresa. And I'm like, "Well, what did you hear?" And she's like, "It sounded like someone said, 'Leave it.'" And I said, "Well, I was just picking up her plant because I was dusting under it." So we audibly heard that, but there's been times where like I was laying up in bed and like we have the old floor grates again, the older houses do, so you can hear what's going on down below. And I woke up, it was early morning, had no idea what time it was, but I'm like, oh, this is kind of peaceful. I'm just gonna lay here, just lay in bed and just lay here. And then all of a sudden I started hearing women voices talking. And I thought, oh, the girls are up. So I go downstairs and they're all sound asleep. I was like, okay, this is crazy. So then I'm like, okay, well, I'll go down and start tidying up in the basement. Get things rolling. Then I started hearing footsteps upstairs. You could tell like somebody's walking around. I was like, oh, now they're up. So I go up there. They're still sleeping. So I'm just like, oh my God, you guys are driving me crazy.
Right.
And then so then I heard like more footsteps upstairs, and I'm like, okay, Donna's up. So I start kind of go up the stairs halfway. I kind of listen, and I can hear Donna snoring. I'm like, nope, it's not Donna. And everybody's still sleeping. I'm the only one in this house. And I'm hearing audible voices and footsteps. So that was kind of a fun night. Well, that was actually in the morning. In the morning, I heard that.
Right. So like we said earlier, this place is open to the public to come and investigate. Spend the whole evening there, actually, stay there the whole night. And you are very liberal when it comes to your times. I kind of looked at some stuff. What if we were to come investigate, or any team come to investigate, when can they get there and how late do they get to stay?
We let you come in at 3 p.m. and stay till noon the next day. That way I kind of feel like, being an investigator myself, you kind of like, well, what kind of things are you looking for when you go to a place? Time.
Right.
Time's a big thing. So I feel like you can get in, you can get things set up, you can catch some dinner, you can do some investigation, you can sleep a little bit before you have to go home. So yeah, quite a bit of time.
That's perfect.
I like that too, because I like it's not covered on the TV shows, and a lot of people don't think about it. It's personal opinion. I like having at least like an hour or so in a place where I'm not, I guess, per se, actively investigating.
Just walking around.
Just kind of walking around. I don't need recorders and stuff like that. Just do my own thing in the area and just kind of I feel like you roll in hot automatically.
Right.
There are those spirits out there that you're probably they're just not going to come out for you.
Right. Well, I like when she said stay till 12
Yeah.
because there's nothing worse than going, most places you have to be out by 7, 8, 9, or about 9 o'clock.
Yeah, when we went out last year, we got back here at 7:30 in the morning.
But that's not we just had an hour and a half drive. But like, I remember when I went out to, I forget what the name of the school is there in Iowa, whatever.
Oh,
I forget the name of the school.
Farrar?
I'm sorry.
Was it Farrar? Farrar?
I think, yes, I went there to investigate and drove, 12, was it 12 hours back to Ohio? Maybe not that quite long, whatever. I had to drive back with the team on no sleep. But trust me, it was a little sketchy by the time we were getting into Indiana.
Yeah, I know it gets rough. I hate it too. Like when we go to places, since I do the majority of the driving, I have to go to bed, which I hate that because I paid money to be there. we got to get back safe,
Yeah, that's important. Now, just to kind of give the listeners an idea, how much is an evening there?
We charge $200 a night, and you can bring up to 8 people for that. And it doesn't matter weekdays or weekends; it's the same price. And we also have coffee and snacks provided there. So we
You
try to
had me
make
at
the nice
snacks.
Yes.
I was gonna say, this
Yes.
is a deal. I will be in Minnesota at the beginning of next month.
She's booked up till July. Where are the best places if somebody is interested in spending the evening there? What are the best? I do have some of your links in the description, but what is the best way to contact you about doing some investigations at this home?
Well, our best bet is to check out our website at boydhouse217.com because that's got a lot of our information on there, a little history of the house. So you can see our calendar of availability. And then there's a contact form where you can just always direct email us to at the boydhouse217@yahoo.com.
Cool. We will. I'm going to be in touch with you, and maybe because you are fairly well booked up. You said this till what, June, July?
Yeah, July. We also, most of the times those Fridays and Saturdays book up, but other days are available. We're open 365 because we have heat, air conditioning, all that kind of stuff, and bathrooms because people like that. So you can just look there. So starting in July, it starts to get a little bit more open up, but we kind of seem to. I always think, oh gosh, we don't have any bookings, and all of a sudden it gets booked up all of a sudden. So
I will definitely be in touch, even though it's a long drive for me.
Oh yeah, I know. I've been to Ohio a few times, so
I think it's probably it's at least 13 hours from here.
Probably, yeah, 13 hours or so.
I might have to make a weekend of it. But I will definitely be in touch. Maybe me and Travis will come out there and even maybe.
I mean, shit, I'll be in Minnesota.
Yeah, but it's
in
booked.
3 weeks. I know that. I'm just saying, I'll let you know how the drive is. I'll bring
that's
back a
true.
souvenir.
Where are you going in India? India? Where are you going in Minnesota?
Shit, it's a suburb of Minneapolis. I know that. I can't remember the actual name of it.
Because the Boyd House, if I'm not correct, is east of what, a hour or 100 miles or so?
144 miles southwest of the Twin Cities. So we're about 2 hours, a little over 2 hours from the Twin Cities.
So you're pretty much in the southwest side of the
state. Yeah, we're way out there. We're actually about an hour south of Brookings, South Dakota. So we're in the corner, southwest corner.
Yeah, but I definitely think, hopefully, me and Travis can come out there and kind of record there and see what we get. I definitely want to do that. It sounds like an interesting place. But I want to thank you, Jill, for coming on the podcast and sharing your stories and sharing this house. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
For you guys in the chat, we are going to stick around and do a little bit of you want to do a after show for the
kind of a little shit show
half hour. Do you want to restart it and take a little break first before we do that?
I mean, we can keep it running if you want. I don't care. I would like to, but it is what it is.
I tell you, we are people in the live stream. We are going to take a break, but we're going to leave the live stream going. So stick around in the live stream. We're going to take a little bit of a break. But Jill, once again, thank you so much for coming on. I'll be in touch with you this week to let you know exactly. Actually, when this episode is going to air on the podcast apps. It probably will be Tuesday, but I will either. Is this a cell phone or a landline that I'm?
It's my cell phone.
Okay, so I could text you that information.
Oh yeah, perfect. Yep.
Okay, I'll text you the information when we I get this cleaned up, the audio cleaned up a little bit and out on the RSS feed on when it's available for Apple, Google, all that happy shit. But
sounds great.
I'll text that information to you. Thank you so much. We greatly appreciate it.
All right, thank you. You guys have a great night.
You too.
You too.
Yep. Bye bye.
All right, now that I don't have to fucking be all proper, god damn it, shit, fuck, balls, ass, cock, cunt.
Whoa, there you go.
Oh god, it was like boiling up inside of me like a fucking Taco Bell shit.
I warned her about that. I said you were a rude, nasty, foul-mouthed piece of shit.
I was pretty good.
You were.
I don't think I said anything worse than shit.
Okay, guys, we gotta take a break because I forgot to move the fucking fan in here.
Yeah, I noticed that. But I knew you were already on the phone with her when I walked in. So hot. God,
I'm glad I put
squeeze that out.
Hold on, I think I put deodorant on. Maybe not.
Wring that shit out in my fucking fish tacos, daddy.
Guys, stick around for about. Thank you. My mother loved our show. Of course,
Of course, she's still in here after that fucking explosion of curse words.
If we sucked ass, my mother would tell us we sucked ass because she's told me many times that you suck. But we were going to take a break. I'm going to move the fan, I'm sure, and get something to drink and cool off. And we will be back in 3-4 minutes. So hang out, talk amongst yourselves.
We'll be back.
We'll be back.
We'll be back after these messages from our sponsors. At the German butt plug and dildo company, you can get the grenade shaped butt plugs. If you don't understand this joke, you have not been listening to the podcast for that long.
Let me turn off.
God, you know what I really hate about doing phone interviews? When we do them in the summer, because my goddamn ears are so fucking hot right now.